This week's constellations are Libra, Virgo, Corvus, and Crater. These constellations are most easily visible in the spring or later in the evening during the winter. The picture you see here is something called, unofficially at least, the Sombrero Galaxy. This is one of many galaxies visible in this part of the sky. Here's a view of the part of the sky that includes most of these constellations, as well as a bright constellation that you might recognize. In the upper right part of this view is the constellation of Leo. You can see the asterism for Leo here with its backwards question mark, marking the head of the lion. To the east of Leo, that would be to the left here, is another zodiacal constellation, Virgo. There's only one particularly bright star in Virgo, and often the arms and legs in this asterism are tough to spot. Here's a view without them. The asterism remaining here, which would be the torso of the maiden, is what seems to be the easiest part of this constellation to spot for me. The one bright star in Virgo is Spica. This is a magnitude 1 star. The next brightest star in Virgo is magnitude 2.7, and nearly all the rest have magnitudes greater than 3 or 4. This makes it a bit tough to spot the asterism for Virgo. Below Virgo, which would be to the south, is a little four-sided figure of stars, which is the asterism that we use for Corvus the crow. This asterism is actually a bit brighter than the one for Virgo. To the right of Corvus, this would be to the west in the sky, is a faint batch of stars belonging to Crater. This isn't too bad of a figure for what it represents. Crater is the Latin word for cup. To our eyes, it may look more like a satellite dish or a radio telescope. I'll fade out the asterisms here and just leave the names. See if you can still spot the asterisms. You might want to pause the playback and try to pick them out here. Let's move along to a somewhat different view of this part of the sky, one that will bring in some other familiar constellations. I hope you recognize something in the upper right of this picture. That's the familiar asterism of the Big Dipper belonging to the constellation Ursa Major. There's another asterism in this part of the sky you might have learned. That's for the constellation of Boötes, to the left of Ursa Major here. And below Boötes is the asterism for Virgo, not all of which is visible here. I'm just showing the torso here. I've shown all three of these asterisms because you can use Ursa Major, or the Big Dipper part of it, to find the two brightest stars in Boötes and Virgo. Use the arc and the handle of the Big Dipper, and first arc to Arcturus, and then speed on to Spica. I don't know who first invented this way of finding these stars, but it works pretty well. We still haven't seen the stars of Libra yet, so let's have a look at the part of the sky that those are in. This view is a little to the east of the first slide you saw. We won't be able to see Crater in this picture. Virgo is in the upper right part of this picture. No arms on this one. We'll fade out this asterism now, then bring it back in. And Spica is down at the corner of the asterism for the torso of Virgo. Down below the torso of Virgo, south in this view, we can see the four-sided asterism for the constellation of Corvus. To the left of Virgo, that would be east in this view, are the stars belonging to Libra. When I see Libra, I'm usually drawn to just the three stars that I connect here with solid lines. The stars with the dashed lines you'll sometimes see in drawings of the asterism for this constellation. Now, two of the stars in Libra have my all-time favorite star names. The first is Zubin el-Janubi, right there. And the second is Zubin es-Shamali, right there. Those names in Arabic mean the southern claw and the northern claw. At one time, the stars in Libra were actually part of the constellation of Scorpius, the scorpion, and those two stars were seen as the claws of the scorpion. Scorpius appears just a little to the east of Libra now. The brightest star in Scorpius is Antares, a name that means the rival of Mars. The view you see in this picture is actually not possible from my home latitude of 47 degrees north. You'd have to travel quite a ways south from there to be able to see this. The next picture has as its bottom edge the approximate location of my southern horizon. Something you can see here is that the bottom part of Scorpius over there in the left-hand corner is not visible here. Virgo is easily visible here though, although we don't have the arms showing in this one. That's the bottom part of Virgo. A bit of Corvus is visible as well. In this shot, it would be setting in the southwest. All of the stars in Corvus have declinations 16 degrees negative or even farther south than that. So they just travel in small arcs across our southern sky. Also visible in this view to the east of Virgo is Libra. Here I've just drawn the simple asterism for Libra. And to the east of Libra is Scorpius. Star names to know in this week's constellations are again Zubin el-Janubi, Spica, and Zubin es-Shamali. I want to show you some of the other neighboring constellations to the north of this week's constellations, so you can have an idea of how this part of the sky is near other parts that you might learn about. Near the bottom right of this view, you might recognize the asterism for Virgo. And again, the arms aren't showing here. A little to the east of Virgo is Libra, not all of which you can see here. To the north of Virgo are the stars of Boötes. To the east, which would be to the left of Boötes, are the stars of Corona Borealis. And below Corona Borealis are the stars of Serpens Caput. That's the head of the snake. We've got the X marks the spot of the head of the serpent showing there. In the Greek mythology, the serpent is carried by Ophiuchus, the serpent bearer, which we can only see a little of in this view. And finally, Near the upper left part of this view, we can see some of the stars in the asterism of Hercules. And that's it for this week's constellations.